Yuli, we've got a monster on our hands. Edwin is an absolute monster. Look what he created for us. Okay. This thing is a masterpiece. And for our listeners at home, I'm going to try to break this down as best as I possibly can. This is the 2023 most improved players and also the most declined, the players that decline the most. So, what Edwin did is he compared the key statistics from 2023 to 2022. Now, for it to be a good set of data, he made sure that you had to have played 15 events. So that way, someone that played 2 events or something isn't throwing off all the data. So everyone in this list had played 15 events last season. There's a total of 58 people. So these are like the top 58 guys that played in 15 events. So looking on birdie rate, James Proctor was the one that had the biggest increase from 2022 to 2023. He increased 22.2% birdie rate to finish at a 44% rate in 2023. Some of the other top names: Eric Oakley, Matt Bell, Alden Harris, Aaron Gossage, Cole Redolin, Simon Lizotte. Now, the 3 guys that had the worst decline, Nico LaCastro saw a negative 2.6% decline. Thomas Gilbert saw a negative 2.9% decline. And Greg Barsby saw a negative 5.3% decline. Driving accuracy. The biggest ones that drew in driving accuracy, you had Aaron Gossage at number 1 with 77.1%. He went up almost 10% in driving accuracy this past season. Then you have Calvin Heimberg, Eric Oakley, James Proctor, Corey Ellis, Bradley Williams, and Gavin Babcock, all increasing their driving accuracy by more than 4%. Impressive stuff. Okay, who struggled? You had Nico LaCastro going down negative 3.6%. You had Tristan Tanner going down 5.1%. And you had Thomas Gilbert going down almost 10% in driving accuracy last season. Let's move over to greens and regulation. This is C2, circle 2, greens and regulation. Biggest movers, Aaron Gossage increased his green and regulation by 13.2%. Then you had James Proctor, Eric Oakley, Bino Makala, Calvin Heimberg, Gavin Babcock, and Chandler Kramer. Biggest droppers in greens and regulation. Interesting here. You had Kevin Jones. Kevin Jones dropped 6.1%. Thomas Gilbert dropped 10.4%, and Nico LaCastro dropped the most by 11.6%. C1X putting, this is the last category here. C1X putting, you had Ezra Aderhold making the biggest improvement, going more than 10.5% increase in his Circle 1X putting to finish 2023 at 85.5%. Cole Redolin at number 2, Yuli at number 3, yours truly, myself, at number 4. Look at that tour life, 3 and 4, baby. We're putters. We're sick putters over here. Then you have Chandler Fry, Chandler Kramer, and Simon Lizotte all finishing out in the top 7 of biggest improvements from Circle 1X putting. The guys that dropped the most: Gavin Babcock dropped 4.5%, Jeremy Colling dropped 5.9%, and Vinyl Makala dropped 6%. Now, what's the big takeaways here? Okay, well, the top players most improved is without a doubt James Proctor. James Proctor increased in every 8 of the 8 key categories. That's birdie percent, that's driving percentage, C1 green and regulation, C2 green and regulation, scramble, C1X putt, C2 putt, and OB rate. James Proctor.
Look at that.
Everything.
22%
birdie rate.
That's
he doubled.
Insane.
He doubled his birdies from the previous year to this year. Insane. Then you also have Aaron Gossage going 6 out of 8, improved 6 out of 8. The only categories that he dropped from last year to this year was his scrambling and his C1X putting. Other names that are super surprising for me on this list is Calvin Heimberg. Calvin Heimberg is on two of these two of these things. If you look at this, some of the top guys, you don't really see some of the top players on here, right? Because they've just always been good. Calvin went from being really good 2 years ago to being insane last year. The fact that he increased in some of these categories is nutty. But Aaron Gossage increased on 6 of 8. And then our biggest decline, the guys that really struggled last year, you have Nico LaCastro decreasing in all but C2 putting. C2 putting was the only category that Nico had a better season in. And then Thomas Gilbert, the only two categories that Thomas Gilbert had a better season in was C1X putting and scramble. Edwin told me, he said, hey, listen, I was going to end it there. I thought that was pretty good for you guys. But he said, I started thinking about something and I wanted to dig deep. I wanted to dig a little further. Can I correlate something here? And so what he did next is he made a correlation graph of analysis for players with new sponsors. So these were the 6 guys that had the 6 biggest MPO players that had new sponsors last year. I'm talking Nico LaCastro, Thomas Gilbert, Mason Ford, AB, Cole Redolin, and Simon Lizotte. If you look on this graph, you want to be in the top right. The top right means that you got better at driving and you got better at putting. Cole Redolin was the one that was off the charts. He did the absolute best from putting and driving, going to his new sponsor, DGA. Then Simon Lizotte, we were all questioning. He's been with Discmania for so long. How is he going to perform in MVP? Well, he did fine. He almost improved by 5% in putting and 5% in driving. AB, he also been with Innova for a while. Now he's with Discraft. How is he going to do? He went about 2.5%, increasing his driving and green and regulation, and increased about 2% or so with his putting. Then you had Mason Ford, who went to Mint. He actually improved his driving and a little bit of a decrease in his putting. Nico, on the other hand, going to Lone Star. Nico actually improved on his putting to about 6 or 7%, but decreased heavily with his driving accuracy and green and regulation. And then the biggest one here is Thomas Gilbert. Thomas Gilbert, leading Prodigy, going to Thought Space. He almost decreased his driving and green and regulation by 10% and decreased his putting by a percentage or so. So I thought this was very fascinating and something that hopefully we can kind of keep a track on going into this season. We've got some big guys moving right now. Obviously, Eagles injured and hurt, but we have a lot of guys moving from sponsors that they've been with for a while to new plastic. How is that transition going to work? And I think now that we're getting better statistics and all this, we can kind of see a better breakdown. What are your thoughts on Edwin Stats for this week, Yuli?
Love Edwin.
Edwin's the monster.
Hey, listen, I met Edwin. I gave him
did you?
Yeah, he came for a lesson last week, actually.
Oh, heck yeah.
And
super nice guy, too.
he is absolutely jacked on statistics. Like,
Yes.
it's his favorite thing. He was so excited to do it, man. His energy was awesome, and I really appreciate him giving these stats, man. So, like you said, shout out to Edwin, man. Good to have him on the team.
And everyone that dropped a comment last week saying that you guys loved Edwin Stats, thank you for doing that. Like that stuff takes a really long time to do, and he really does appreciate that. So if you guys like Edwin Stats, if you like the new segment that we do, make sure that you're dropping a like on the video, and also leave him a nice little note in the comments after the video, or if you're listening onto the podcast and you love Edwin Stats, come over to YouTube, drop a comment for Edwin Stats. I'm always that's maybe, I still think wild story of the week. I mean, eating poop is, it's hard for me to be eating poop, but Edwin Stats is getting really close to my favorite segment on Tour Life. So shout out to Edwin as always. And he's in the chat too, right there. Wadkin22. He is a captain of Tour Life crew. So shout out. Let's go. He's in you guys maybe don't even know Edwin's with you guys.